Good day, learners. Welcome to Technical Mathematics lesson. My name is Mathulela Takomu. This lesson is brought to you by Sci-Bono Discovery Center in collaboration with Gauteng Department of Education. Grade 11s, today we will be looking at the revision of Term 1 work, and we move forward to the topics that we have done in Term 1. At the end of this lesson, learners should be able to answer examination questions of the following topics: your analytical geometry, exponents and sets, and also exponential equations and logarithm equations. Okay, before we start with our question papers, let's do a bit of a summary of analytical geometry. So, in analytical geometry, we know that we have what we call your distance, your gradient, midpoint, and equation of a line, correct? And you also know you also have to know the concepts of parallel lines and perpendicular lines. But the basics is for any 2 points, which is P and Q, on a Cartesian plane. When you have any of the 2 points, you can be able to calculate the distance using the formula there. Using the formula there. And also the gradient, you have the formula for the gradient. And I was talking about the gradient. Remember that when the lines are parallel, the gradient are equal, and when the lines are perpendicular, then the product of the gradient will be -1. Then we have to also calculate the midpoint. Remember the midpoint, this is the formula that we need to use for the midpoint. And the equation of a straight line. We also have the equations there of the equation of a straight line. And remember, you will need a gradient and 1 point on the line that we need to determine. Correct. So now let's move to our first question or first activity. This is the revision of your weekly test that were provided to you. So now the question states as follows, or the statement: in the diagram below, triangle RST with vertex R, which is 4 and 3, S, which is 1 and 2, and T, which is 5 and -4, is given. The angle of inclination of RS with the positive x-axis is theta. So there is the angle there of inclination there. It's indicated in the diagram. So now we have our diagram and we also have our questions. You can see that this test, it was having 13 marks, and we have to read the questions carefully and also use the diagram to answer those questions. So now we have the first one, 1.1, where it says you must determine the gradient of RS. So remember, when you determine the gradient of RS, you firstly need your point of R and also your point of S, correct? Then now you will have to see R, which is not 3 but 4, your R, which is 4 and 3, your R, which is 4 and 3, and you have also your S, which is 1 and 0. Remember, the first thing that you need to do here is to name them according to how you are going to substitute them in your formula sheet, which is x1, y1, x2, y2. Then sorry, you can go and identify your formula in the information sheet, and the formula for gradient, that's what it's going to look like. Then what we do here, we're going to substitute. As we substitute, remember all the time you must indicate using your brackets. Then we have to now substitute. What are we substituting? Your y1, which is 3, and your y2, which is 0, and your x2, which is 1, and your your x1, which is 4. So as you now substitute that one in your calculator, you will realize that, let's punch it in a calculator there. So you have your 3 minus 0 into 1 minus 4. Then you will have your gradient there as negative 1. Okay. Let's look into our substitution. Sorry, your x2, your y2 is 0, and then you'll have positive 1 there. So remember, in this type of a question, they said it's 2 marks, and how you're going to mark it, you're going to have only 1 mark for substitution and 1 mark for answer. Then you have your 2 marks there. So remember, that's how you were supposed to answer this type of a question. Then you go to 1.2, then it has 1.2.1, where you do have a diagram and a question there. So your 1.2.1, it states as follows. That is a question. Write down the formula required to calculate the angle of inclination of a line. So you know that the angle of inclination, the formula, it is there in our information sheet, which is tan of theta is equal to m. So that's what you're going to do. Then you have your 1 mark there. Then your 1.2.2, then it says, hence, determine the value of theta. So remember, when we say hence, it means we must use what we have calculated or determined in the previous question, which is the equation of our angle of inclination. That is the formula. Then you know that you have your tan of theta, which is equal to, remember now, m, it basically represents the gradient. It basically represents the what? The gradient. And if you can check there, we have determined the gradient of SR, which is 1. So you're looking at that line there, and with the positive x-axis, and that is the angle that we are looking for. So the gradient of that line now is positive 1. So what we are going to do now, where there is m, we instead going to substitute by what? By positive 1. Then now your theta is going to be the arctan of positive 1. So if you get your calculator and you now determine, or you punch in the arctan of positive 1, you're going to get the degree, the angle there as 45 degrees. So what does it tell us? You can see that the angle there of theta on our diagram, it's an acute angle, it's an angle that is less than 90 degrees, then that's where we're gonna stop in terms of our steps of determining the angle. So 2 marks, 1 mark it will be for correct substitution, and 1 mark it will be for your angle. So that's where you get your 2 mark and 1 mark for that question 1.2.1. So basically you can see that from 1.1, 2 marks, 1.2, 3 marks, already you have 5 out of 13. Then we move forward to our next question. Then it says you must calculate the length of RT in simplest set form. So now, what we need to do here is to calculate the length. The length of what? RT. That is the length that we are looking for. RT. So remember all the time, you're going to have your point there of T, which is 5 and -4. Then you also have R, which is 4 and 3. Then I said all the time, make sure that you label them X1, Y1, X2, Y2. Then you go and determine, or identify the formula for the length. Remember, we can call it the distance as well. So the length there of TR, it's equal to, now, the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Remember, these formulas, they are there in your formula sheet or information sheet. So you need to know how to identify them. So now we're going to substitute there and make sure that as you write your formula, you write it the way you are going to punch it in your calculator. And the square root must cover everything underneath. Correct? So that's how we open the brackets and we start to substitute. Then we go and check your x2. x2 is 4 and x1 is 5. Then y2 is 3 and y1 is -4. So that's what you do in terms of substitution. Then from there, you go and use your calculator to get your answer. So what is going to happen here, after you have punched in your calculator, we are getting 5 root of 2. We're getting 5 root of 2 as our answer. Then now, this question as well, it was 2 marks. You will get 1 mark for substitution and 1 mark for answer. Correct? So you can see that already you have 7 marks out of 13, which is 50%, only by answering 3 sub-questions there. Then we go to 1.4. 1.4, we must determine the coordinate of the midpoint of ST. The midpoint of ST, the line of ST is that line there, but we need to calculate the midpoint there. Correct? Now, like I said, you're going to have S, which is 1 and 0. And we're going to have T, which is 5 and -4. Then we do like I indicated, x1, y1, x2, y2. Then you go and identify the formula for midpoint in your information sheet, which is going to be m into x2 plus x1 all divided by 2 and y2 plus y1 all divided by 2. So learners, please be careful. Don't cram these formulas. You just need to identify them, because in technical mathematics already you will be given the information sheet. So most of the learners, they tend to put the sign of a negative instead of positive in this formula, of which it will make your answers wrong. So always make sure that you know how to identify the correct formula. So as we are going to substitute, remember both of them are divided by 2. So we're going to open just the brackets for our substitution. Then our midpoint will be in a form of a coordinate. So what do we do now? We substitute. X2 is 5, x1 is 1. Y2 is minus 4, and y1 is 0. So now we're going to have 3 and negative 2. 3 and negative 2 is our answer. But when we mark this one, you only gonna get 1 mark for the correct value of x and 1 mark for the correct value of y, and it make it 2 marks. Then you have your 2 marks there. So that's how you were supposed to answer this type of questions. Then now we go to number 1.5. Then in 1.5 you have a statement below there, above. Then the statement, it says, a line drawn parallel to RS passing through the midpoint of ST, correct? So now, we have a midpoint there, correct? Then they are saying we have a midpoint there, which is M. Then we have a parallel line passing through ST at the midpoint. But that parallel line is parallel to what? RS. That's what they are talking about. That's what they are talking about. So now, 1.5.1, they're saying you must complete the statement. If 2 lines are parallel, their gradient are, and these are the concepts that you need to understand. Parallel lines, they can have the same, you can say their gradient or the same, or you can say their gradient are equal. Whatever reason you give there between the two, you get it right. You can either say the gradient are the same or the gradient are equal. Then 1.5.2, then it says you hence determine the gradient, determine the equation of the line parallel to us RS and passing through the midpoint of ST in the form of y is equal to. Then the first thing that you need to identify there is the gradient of RS. Then the gradient of RS, when you calculated it was 1. Then you can say the gradient of RS is equal to the gradient of the gradient of the line M passing through the midpoint there, correct? Then it's equal to 1. Why? Because the line of RS is parallel to the line of that M there, correct? Those lines are parallel, so their gradient are going to be the same. So how do we do that? Remember, we need a gradient and a point. And the point that we got from there, it was 3 and negative 2. So what will happen is that we're going to have the gradient, which is 1, and the point, which is 3 and negative 2. Then we can substitute in our formula for the equation of a line. Then now, that's what we have. Then you can say y minus into negative 2 is equal to 1 into x minus 3. Then you're going to have y plus 2 is equal to 1 into x minus 3. Then what you do here, you just remove the bracket. By multiplying 1 inside, you're going to have 1 plus 2. It's equal to x minus 3. Then as you take that one that side, what are we going to have? Y is equal to x minus 5, because the 2 will become negative. Then we have negative 3, negative 2, which is negative 5. Basically, on this one, there are two things that this question can be, two ways on how this question can be marked. The first thing that you can do is to mark your gradient and the point, and also the final equation in the form of y out of 3 marks. So that's how you are going to calculate that equation of a line. Remember, this question, it was how much? It was 13 marks. So that's how you get your whole 13 marks. Then we move to now simplifying expression. When you simplify the expression, what is it that we need to know? Remember, guys, in terms of simplification, you need to understand the laws of exponents and also to apply the laws and basic numbers. The laws, to apply laws, the basic number must be the same, correct? And then the single expression of positive or negative in between terms, where you have to make the base the same and apply the laws. And also that one, you know that we also need to know how to take out the common factor. And then the third one, you express with more than one term, correct, between terms, and you factorize. So those are the things that we need to know as we're dealing with simplification. Then we're looking into our second test that we wrote, and then it says it was 8 marks, which is the short test because it was only for a week. But now we need to complete by writing in the exponential form. You need to complete by writing in the exponential form. I think that one, it's a basic rule of rational exponents where you need to change that. So how are you going to write this one? You know that you're going to have a, and we said what is inside the square root will go at the top, and what is outside the square root will go at the bottom, which is that. Okay? Okay, here we have a question. It says, sorry sir, answers are not the same like yours, and I don't understand how to get them. Okay, maybe if you can be specific on which answer are you talking about, so that I can go back and explain in detail. If maybe you can indicate to me which question are you talking about, maybe in the previous test where you have 1.1 or 1.2 or 1.5, please indicate so that I can assist in that regard. I will wait for that question, then I can go back and explain. Okay, looking at number 1, like I indicated, that there you need to change your root sign to the rational exponent, and I indicated that you will have base a with the exponent of 3 over 5, and that's how you accumulate your first mark there. That's where you get your first mark there, correct? Then now you're looking at the second one where we saying we simplify, then you have 3 sub-questions there that we need to do. So now what I will do now, I will just give you maybe 2 minutes to answer this one, to our midpoint, before I can continue there, okay. Midpoint, there we go. Okay, with midpoint, remember, the question says we must determine the coordinate of the midpoint of ST. Then ST is this line there, correct? Then what we need to do now is to indicate the point of S and the point of T. You can agree with me that the point of S is 1 and 0, and the point of T is 5 and -4. Then the first thing that I said we must do is to now do what? Is to now indicate from S you're seeing x1, y1, and from T you're seeing x2, y2. And I indicated that you must be careful with this formula because here we are only dealing with positive, not negatives. So you'll find that most of the learners, they will put positive there, negative instead of positive. And that's where now most of the time we get it wrong. However, let's do our substitution. So our substitution here, it says x2, and x2 there it's indicated by 5. Then we have x1, x1 is indicated by 1. Then if you say 5 plus 1, you get 6, and if you say 6 divided by 2, you get 3. Right? Then now you go to the y value now. Y value, if you say y2, we get -4, like I substituted -4 there, and then y1, you get 0. Then from there, you will know that -4 plus 0 is still -4. And -4 divided by 2, you get -2. Hence, I said our points there, it's going to be 3 and -2. So I hope I've answered your question on how we have arrived on that answer. And please make sure that, like I indicated, that the signs there in your formula, they are positive, because that's what the formulas of midpoint requires. I hope I've answered your question. Okay, we're going back to our test 2, where I gave you 2 minutes to do this type of a question. And remember, we apply the laws of exponents. So basically on this one, guys, remember when we give the laws, you will basically have something like this. Let me just put another variable there. Yeah, we'll have something like this. And we said, this is what you're going to do. This P will multiply N and it will multiply M. So we're going to have X N multiplied by P and Y M multiplied by P. That's how you are going to remove your bracket and simplify that. So basically here, you know that for your 2, it always have the exponent of 1. 2 has exponents of 1 all the time. So what we need to do is to say 4 will multiply the exponent of 1, the exponent of 3, and the exponent of 2. So basically we're going to have 2, 1 multiplied by 4, x 3 multiplied by 4, and y 2 multiplied by 4. Then you will always say 2 to the exponent of 4. You have 2 times 2 is 8, which is going to be, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times another 2 is going to be 16. Correct? Then we're going to have x to the 12 and y to the 8. So that's basically how you are going to get your answer. That one was basic. It was as simple as ABC. So you get your 2 marks there. Okay, we move to the second one. On this one, remember that we need to understand the prime factors. So, and we also need to understand the rules of the laws. The exponents, the laws of exponent, where it says when you have the same base, you add the exponents, and when you divide the same base, you subtract the exponents. So in this case, what do we have? We can see that in the numerator, we are having the bases that are the same, which is 3. But in the denominator, we're having the base of 9. But we can also change that 9 to have the base of 3. Then what can we do now? We can say, okay, from our numerator, I can say, since I'm multiplying the 2 base, I can do what to the exponent? I can add them, correct? Then now, at the bottom, I will have 3 squared, which is the prime factor of 9, and x minus 1. So what will happen there is that on your denominator, that 2 will multiply x and will multiply negative 1. Then what will happen there is that from the numerator, remember we have 3, x plus x is 2x minus 2. Then at the bottom, we're going to have 3. 2 times x is 2x minus 2. So that's what basically you are going to have. And when we follow the correct rules, the laws of exponent, we're going to divide the same base, which is going to be 2x minus 2 minus. Then you also subtract what is at the exponent at the bottom, which is 2x minus 2. Then now what we do, we need to remove the bracket. I will multiply inside there by a negative. So what am I going to have now? I'm going to have 2x minus 2 minus 2x plus 2. So we can see that as we're gonna add our like terms, 2x and minus 2x, they cancel out. Then minus 2 plus 2, they also cancel out. And we remain there with 0 because they are subtracting each other. Then we know that a definition of exponent, it says anything to the exponent of 0 is equal to 1. That is our definition of exponents. So basically what is going to happen there when we mark, you will find that 1 mark, it will be for your prime factors. Another mark, it will be for applying the method of dividing the same base. And then the final answer, which is your 3 marks. Correct? So that's basically how you are going to answer that type of a question. Then you don't need to rush when you answer this type of questions. You must take them step by step. So looking at 2.3 now, we are having 25 multiplied by 2 to the exponent of m minus 2 to the exponent of m. All divided by 6 multiplied by 2 to the exponent of m. So this one, it's basic because there is no need for us to be simplifying too much. The only thing that we're looking at is the terms that we are having in the numerator. We are having 2 terms there because terms are only separated by positive or negative sign. So now, we can see that on the numerator, we are having a common factor of 2 to the exponent of m. So what do we do then there? We are going to say, okay, if I were to take out 2 to the exponent of m as a common factor, I will be left with 25 minus. Remember, guys, when you take out the common factor, it's like you are dividing that expression by its common factor, which is 2 to the exponent of m. Then you're going to have 1 there. If you say 2 to the exponent of m divided by 2 to the exponent of m, remember when same number divide itself, you're going to have 1, not 0, but 1. Then we are going to have 6 multiplied by 2 to the exponent of m. So now 6 times 2 to the exponent of m in the denominator, that is a product. Then we can simply apply what? Cancellation. Then we do what? We now say 25 minus 1 all over 6. And then if you say 25 minus 1 is 24, and then 6 goes into 24 4 times. So that's how you are going to answer that type of a question. So remember, with this type of questions, there are 3 things that you need to know. At some point, you will need to know how to separate the exponents and how to take out the common factor, cancellation, and your calculator. So now, that's the answer that you are going to get from that, and then that's how you will accumulate your 8 marks. The 3 marks that is allocated, it will be by you identifying the common factor, then simplification and the answer, which is going to be 3 marks. So now, that's what you are going to do to get your 8 marks. You can see that, and that, which is your 8 marks. Okay. We need to be careful now with the statements that are given as you are required to answer the questions. You can see there they said, simplify without the use of a calculator. Then what do we do there? We have 3 sub-questions there, also out of 8. Then what do we do there? The first one, it's square root of 50 x to the exponent of 10 multiplied by the square root of 18 x to the exponent of -4. Then what do we do on this one? The first thing that you do is to separate. Remember, we also know the law of sets, where it says if I have 2 numbers or variables that are multiplying each other inside the square root, I can share those numbers or variables like that. So that is the basic method that you are going to apply here. So the first thing that you do there is to separate them. So which is 50 multiplied by square root of x to the exponent of 10 multiplied by the square root of 18 multiplied by the square root of x to the exponent of 4. So now here, if you know that the square root of 50, you will see that 50, it can be made by 25 multiplied by 2, and 25, it will be your perfect square. Then if you say square root of 50, you're basically going to have 5 root of 2. Then with the one of variables, we apply that rational exponent, which is 10 divided by 2. Remember, squared means there is a ghost 2 there. Right? There is a ghost 2 there. So that's what basically we are going to do there. And you multiply now by 18. What do we do with 18? 18 is the same as what? As 18, you know that is 9 multiplied by 2, and 9 is a perfect square. So the square root of 9, it will be 3 root of 2. then x negative 4 divided by 2. Then that's basically what you are going to have there. So now what will happen here is that we're going to have 5 root of 2 x to the exponent of 5 multiply by 3 root of 2, then x to the negative 2. So but that's basically what you are going to have there. Then now you know that we are not adding but we are multiplying the 2. Then you are going to first multiply your coefficients. So if you say 5 root of 2 multiplied by 3 root of 2, then what you are going to do there, you are firstly multiplying 5 and 3. 5 and 3 is 15. 5 multiplied by 3 is 15. And if you multiply, this is what I am talking about. 5 root of 2 multiplied by 3 root of 2. So what will happen there is 5 multiplied by 3 is 15. Then if you multiply the numbers that are inside the square root and are the same, the answer will be that. So 15 multiplied by 2, that's where you get what? 30. Correct? Then now we multiply the same base. What do we do to the exponent? We add them. In this case, we subtracting. Then we are going to have 30x cubed. So that's basically what you need to do there. Like I indicated, you need to do these things step by step. You don't need to rush. You also need to remember the basic laws of sets or rules of sets and exponent as well, because those are the important things in technical mathematics. Then we go to the next one where we are having open bracket square root of 5 plus 4 close bracket squared minus 3 square root of 5. Then here, remember they said without the use of a calculator, we can simply just do that. Because of the squared, it means we are going to have 2 of those. Let me write them properly. So our aim here, the first thing that we need to do is to remove those brackets. So what we're going to have there is going to be 5 plus 4 root of 5 plus 4 root of 5 plus 16 minus 3 root of 5. Then now you're looking into the like terms, you will find that 5 and 16 are the like terms. So we are going to have what there? We are going to have 21. Then the other like terms are what? 4 root of 5, 4 root of 5, and negative 3 root of 5. Then what do we do there? We're going to say 4 plus 4 is 8, minus 3 is 5, root of 5. So basically that's what you are going to get as your answer, right? For 2 marks. Then we go to our third one, where now we are dealing with divisions of sets. Now, what is going to happen here? Remember they said without the use of a calculator. Then we know that if the numbers that you can make your 48 is going to be what? 16 times 3. Remember 16 times 3, it can lead you to 48, but you will know that this is what you can do is 16 multiplied by 3 plus 12 is just 4 multiplied by 3, and 27 is the same as what? 9 multiplied by 3. So basically that's what you need to do. Remember, always when you're doing the sets, one factor inside the square root must be a perfect square. In case you can see 16, 4, and 9, all those numbers are perfect square. So if we do it, it's going to be 4 root of 3 plus, that is the square root of 16 is 4. The square root of 4 is going to be 2 root of 3. And 27 is going to be 3 root of 3. Then what will happen here is to now add them, because the two are the like terms, which is going to be 6 root of 3 divided by 3 root of 3. Then what will happen there is that simplifying, then we have 6 over 3, which is 2. So that's how you basically deal with this. Remember, it was a question out of 8 marks, which is our test 3. So that's basically how you were supposed to answer that question and get your 8 marks. Okay, let's now look into our test 4. And here we are solving for x. And remember, in terms of solving for x, we have different methods that can be applied in getting to the correct answer. However, we'll try by all means to do some alternatives in some of the questions so that you can understand it better. Let's look at the first one now. The first one we have 4x squared is equal to 100. The first thing that you can do there is to say, okay, let's get rid of 100. You can get rid of 100 by, let's get rid of 4, not 100, 4. You divide both sides by 4, then we know that 4 divided by 4, you will remain with x squared. It's equal to 25. Correct? So now, what we do, we can now transpose this 25 to the left-hand side. We're going to have x squared minus 25 is equal to 0. Then there, that's why now you apply what? Different of 2 squares. Then we're going to have x minus 5 and x plus 5. Then 0 factor rule, x minus 5 is equal to 0, or x plus 5 is equal to 0. Then we're going to have x as positive 5 and x as negative 5. That's basic of what you can do when you solve for x in this case. Another way of doing this thing, remember, you can just simply say x 4x squared it's equal to 100. Then we divide both sides by 4. 4 divided by 4, you're going to be remained with x squared. It's equal to 25. one can say, when I'm at this stage, what I can do, I can simply introduce the square root, and therefore x is going to be 5. So now, if you were to do this and you don't put plus minus as you are introducing your square root, correct? You don't put plus minus like that as you are introducing your square root. Chances are you can get 2 over 3 if you omit plus minus, because that plus minus basically it tells you that there need to be 2 values of x, one being positive and one being negative, like we have done on this side. So this method, yes, is very short, you can do it, but as you introduce the square root, always when you are solving for x, you need to indicate plus minus so that you can have 2 values of x. So it's very short, but most of the learners, that's where they make a mistake, omitting those positive or negative. Then they now lose 1 mark. So we don't want to lose marks, but this is how you deal with this type of equation. Okay, we're looking at this one. You can see that there are 2 things that can be involved in this case. Either we can use the exponents or the laws. But now let's see how do we deal with that. The first thing we do here is to now get the same, the basis to be the same. So if I have 1 over the prime factors of 16, we know that is 2 to the 4. X is equal to 2 to the exponent of 6. Then now we can write that one as 2 to the negative 4. X is equal to 2 to the exponent of 6. So now the base are the same. But we need to remove those brackets. We need to do multiplication, which is 2 negative 4. X is equal to 16 to the exponent of 6. Then when the bases are the same, we equate the exponents. We want x, we'll divide both sides by what? By 4. Then now, x will be negative 3 over 2. Because 2 goes into 6 3 times and into 4 2 times. So that's basically how you can solve that type of a equation. Correct? Looking at the last one now. It's a very simple but a tricky equation, and we need to now know how to deal with exponents, because this one requires exponents. So now, what do we do now in this case? The first thing that we do, we apply what we call separation, where you need to separate the exponent into the same base. You can see what I've done there. I separated the exponent of x plus 2 into the same base. Then from there you can see that on your left hand side we have a common factor of x cubed, and we take 3 to the exponent of x. Then we're going to have 3 to the exponent of x into 1 plus 3, like that. Correct? So now, x to the exponent of 3 into, if we add those ones, we get 10. It's equal to 10. We divide both sides by 10. Then x is equal to 3 to the exponent of x is equal to 1. Then from there we know that any number to the exponent of 0 can be 1. Then because we want the same base, I will put 3 to the exponent of 0. Then the same base, we equate the exponent. It means in this case, your x will be 0. Then that's how we solve that one. It's basic, simple, but it looks tricky. Correct? Then now we move forward to the last one. Let me give you, let's say 10 minutes. Okay, let's say 3 minutes each because it's simple. So 6 minutes, 3 minutes each. After 3 minutes, then I will do the first one and the second one. Okay, now let's look at how do we answer this type of a question. Remember, the thing that we need to understand about logarithms is that the minute you are not given the base, we always assume that the base of your log is base 10. So the minute you are not given the the base of your logarithms, we always assume that your base is 10. In this case, you can see that the base is not given. Then I can basically rewrite this equation with the base of 10. Then now, when we move forward, we now need to get rid of the log. And how do we get rid of the log? We apply the very simple technique of taking the base of the log, then it will go to the right-hand side. But as it goes to the right-hand side, it will push the base here to the exponent. So basically what I'm saying is that 10 will become the base and 3 will become your exponent. That's what will happen there. Then we have x minus 2. In that case, we have got rid of the log. It's as simple as that. Then now we have x minus 2, it's equal to, if now you say 10 to the exponent of 3, you are going to get 1,000. Then we take that negative 2, we transpose it, then x is going to be 1,000 plus 2, which is going to be 1,002. So that's basically how you will do that one. It's 2 marks. Okay? Let's look into the second one. In this case, remember now, our logarithms equations, in that form, it's expanded. Then we can now reduce it and write it as a single logarithm. Remember, if we are having a positive there, it means we go with multiplication. And if it was a negative, then we're going to apply division. So in this case, we are going to write it in a single log. But we do what now to the numbers? We multiply them. It's equal to 3. Then you can see that now, as we are at this stage, we need to also get rid of the log. Then how do we get rid of the log? Like I indicated, you take the base, then it will go like that. Then it will push the 3 to be the exponent there. That is basic thing that you need to know on how to get rid of the log. So now, it means I will have x plus 3, x minus 4. Then now we apply our FOIL method, or we can say distributive property, to remove our bracket. So we're going to have x squared minus 4x plus 3x minus 12 is equal to 8. 2 cubed is 8. Then x squared minus x minus, if I take this one and transpose it, it will be 20. Then now we can do what? We can factorize. Factors of 20 that can give you 1, it's 5 and 4, positive and negative. Zero factor rule. X is equal to 5, negative 4. So in this case, negative 4 won't be applicable because the minute you have a log of a negative number, because if I were to substitute 4, I will say minus 4 plus 3, which is going to be negative 1, and negative log of a negative number, it will give us your maths error. So now only 5 is applicable in that case. So this is how you get your 8 marks on this test 5. This is the end of the lesson. I hope you have enjoyed this lesson. Thank you.